establish a good record of working together, and I'd love to get a commitment here to work together to go through a full reauthorization of the Clean Water Act and clarify these many issues of what we wanted to protect and what we want to be excluded from the jurisdiction. The Congress has the authority to do that. I think we should undertake that. It'd be very difficult. But to say that repealing this rule, which does have some clarifications of the Bush, that would return us to the Bush-era regulations, hodgepodge of ad hoc and inconsistent jurisdictional theories that are resulting in increase in delays, costs to the public at large, American Farm Bureau, doesn't seem like a good result. So unless we choose to act and clarify the law, that's what we're going to be stuck with. And under this resolution, we cannot, absent another specific action by Congress, they can't use any of the work that went into developing this rule or the data. It can't be substantially the same. We would have to further authorize them to begin a new rulemaking. There was unprecedented public comment, 207 days of public comment, 1 million comments received, 400 public meetings, and there was a special consultation process for the states and local officials. Now, my state and the state of Pennsylvania apparently were pretty satisfied with that. There are other states that weren't, but maybe they didn't go to the meetings. So with that, I would yield, what time?
3 minutes.
3 minutes to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Napolitano.
The gentlelady is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise in opposition to SJ Resolution 22, the Congressional Review Act disapproval resolution on the EPA Corps of Engineers Clean Water Rulemaking. And I thank my ranking member, Peter DeFazio, for his strong advocacy and dedicated leadership in protecting the waters of the United States. Congress has a long history in supporting the Clean Water Act. Back in 1972, Congress overrode President Nixon's veto of the Clean Water Act, demonstrating bipartisan support for the federal regulation of our nation's waters. The message was very clear. Human health would no longer take a back seat to big business. We need to protect our people. Never mind business, agriculture, and some others. What about the people who drink the water and use it for everyday purposes? Now, more than 40 years later, we are set to vote to overturn the Clean Water Protection Rule, a rule that for the first time in over a decade provides clarity for regulated parties and protection for our nation's rivers and streams. What message are we sending out today? Clearly, we are not telling the American people that what water the American people have left is not worth protecting. Mr. Speaker, when developing the Clean Water Protection Rule, the administration went to unprecedented lengths to engage with stakeholders, including ranchers, farmers, municipalities, held over 400 stakeholder meetings on the rule, and reviewed close to 1 million public comments on the rule. I say public because the public was also partly commenting on this. It is evident that EPA and the Corps wholeheartedly consider these comments and concerns because many of the Clean Water Rule reforms benefit industry, agriculture, and municipalities. These reforms include limiting permits for ditches, municipal stormwater sewers, and codified exemptions for certain agriculture, construction, and mining activities. And let us not forget that the farmers and developers alike call the Clean Water Act's current, I'm talking again about the current one, regulatory process, quote, ad hoc, quote, inconsistent and costly. The rule we are attempting to overturn would keep the old Bush administration era confusing regulations in place and potentially prohibiting the president and his future successors from developing a clean water rule in the future. As we stand here today, I can't think of one good reason to pass this resolution. The same groups that asked for this rule actually benefited from the rule, but they are now asking us to do away with that rule. The only thing I can surmise is that those who oppose this rule would oppose any rulemaking that did not drastically limit the application of the Clean Water Act, or, put it another way, these groups are simply opposed to Clean Water Act entirely. In California, 92.7% of the population gets its water from drinking water systems that rely on water bodies protected by this rule. With numbers like that on the line, reckless. Mr. Speaker, I urge all my colleagues to join me in strong opposition to this resolution, and I yield back.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from Oregon reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield